The house at 147 Maple Grove wasn't just any house. It was my sanctuary, my childhood home, and most importantly, my grandfather's legacy. I grew up watching him tinker in his workshop, disappearing for hours into the basement that he kept meticulously locked. "One day, Sophie," he would say with a mysterious twinkle in his eyes, "this house will tell you all its secrets." I never understood what he meant until it was almost too late. My name is Sophie Bennett, and this is the story of how my family's greed led them to make the biggest mistake of their lives. A mistake that would reveal a secret worth $47 million in gold. Growing up, I was always different from my sister Madison. While she focused on looking perfect and chasing status, I spent countless hours with Grandpa Edward in his workshop, learning about antiques, history, and the art of patience. Value isn't always visible to the naked eye, he would tell me, carefully restoring old furniture or examining vintage coins. The family dynamic shifted dramatically when Grandpa Edward passed away 5 years ago. My parents, who had always favored Madison, became even more blatant in their preferential treatment. They praised her for marrying a wealthy businessman while criticizing my choice to become a history professor. "When will you get a real job?" Mom would ask during our increasingly tense family dinners. Madison's husband just bought her another vacation home in the Hamptons. I would sit there, quietly eating my food, remembering Grandpa's words about patience and hidden value. Then came the announcement that shattered my world. "We're selling the house," my father declared one Sunday evening. "Madison and James need a bigger place now that they're expecting, and this location is perfect for them." My heart stopped. "But this is Grandpa's house," I protested. "He wanted it to stay in the family." "It is staying in the family," Mom smiled coldly. "With Madison." "I'll buy it," I said immediately. "I have savings. We can arrange a fair price." Madison laughed, that high-pitched, condescending laugh that always made my skin crawl. "On a professor's salary? Please, Sophie, be realistic." That's when my father dropped the final bomb. "Actually, we've already drawn up the papers. We're selling it to Madison for $2. $2? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "That's not even. It's a family transfer," my father cut in. "The price is symbolic. Madison and James will take good care of it." "You don't deserve this house," Madison added, examining her manicured nails. "You'll probably turn it into some sort of museum or something equally worthless." I looked at each of their faces, Mom's artificial smile, Dad's stern expression, Madison's smug grin. These weren't the people I grew up with. Greed and status had transformed them into strangers. The sale was processed with stunning speed. Within a week, Madison owned my childhood home for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. She immediately began planning extensive renovations, talking about gutting the entire house, including Grandpa's beloved workshop. But fate had other plans. The night before Madison's contractors were scheduled to begin demolition, I received a mysterious envelope. Inside was a single key and a note written in my grandfather's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Sophie, if you're reading this, then things have happened exactly as I feared they might. The house has been taken from you by those who don't understand its true value. But remember what I taught you. The greatest treasures often lie hidden from those too blind to see them." The enclosed key opens more than just a door. It opens the truth. With love, Grandpa Edward. P.S. Check the third floorboard from the left in my workshop. Time is of the essence. My hands trembled as I read the note again. After all these years, Grandpa was still looking out for me. I knew I had to act fast. Madison's contractors would arrive at 8 a.m. the next morning. That night, I waited until midnight before driving to my old home. The house looked different now, colder somehow, with Madison's expensive cars parked in the driveway. Using my old key, the one Madison hadn't thought to ask for, I quietly entered through the side door. The workshop was exactly as Grandpa had left it, probably because Madison considered it too beneath her to even enter. I counted 3 floorboards from the left wall and gently pried it up. Inside was another key, larger and older than the first, along with another note. "The truth lies below, but be careful who you trust with it." My heart pounding, I made my way to the basement door. This was the door Grandpa had always kept locked, the one that had fascinated me as a child. The key fit perfectly. As I descended the stairs, the beam of my flashlight revealed something that made me gasp. The basement wasn't just a basement. It was an entrance to something much bigger. Behind a false wall, partially hidden by old shelving, was a massive steel vault door. I stood there, staring at it, understanding flooding through me. All those hours Grandpa spent in the basement, all his mysterious comments about the house's secrets, the way he'd specifically taught me about gold prices and the history of family fortunes. With trembling hands, I fitted the first key he'd sent me into the vault's lock. It turned with a heavy click that echoed through the basement. What I found inside would change everything. The vault door swung open with a heavy groan, revealing a sight that took my breath away. Stacked neatly on reinforced steel shelves were hundreds of gold bars, each one gleaming under my flashlight beam. But that wasn't all. Display cases lined the walls, filled with rare coins, precious gems, and artifacts that belonged in a museum. On a desk in the center of the vault lay a leather-bound ledger and another envelope with my name on it. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Sophie, if you're reading this, you found what I spent a lifetime collecting. Your grandmother and I began this collection during our travels, acquiring pieces that others overlooked or undervalued. Just like you, we saw worth where others saw nothing. Everything in this vault is legally documented. The ledger contains all acquisition records, authenticity certificates, and ownership papers. Current market value, approximately $47 million. I've watched how they treat you, Sophie. I've seen how they dismiss your intelligence, your kindness, your patience. They think success only comes in the form of status and quick money. They're wrong. This vault and everything in it is yours. I've already arranged all the legal documentation with my attorney, Mr. Harrison. The papers are in the white folder on the desk. Use it wisely. Love, Grandpa Edward. I sat there in the vault, surrounded by millions in gold and precious artifacts, tears streaming down my face. Even after his death, Grandpa was still teaching me lessons about patience and true value. The sound of a car door slamming snapping back to reality. Through the basement window, I saw Madison's Porsche in the driveway. She was home early. Quickly, I gathered the ledger, legal documents, and Grandpa's letters. I had just locked the vault and replaced the false wall when I heard footsteps above. Who's down there? Madison's voice echoed down the stairs. I'm calling the police. I emerged from the basement, documents clutched to my chest. It's just me. Madison flipped on the lights, her face contorting with rage. You're trespassing. This is my house now. How dare you? Actually, I cut her off, feeling strangely calm. I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. Over the next hour, I explained everything to an increasingly pale-faced Madison. The vault, the gold, the legal documents making me the sole owner of everything inside it. That's impossible, she whispered. This house, we own it now. You own the house, I corrected her. For $2. But everything underneath it, that's mine. And according to state law, you can't access or renovate any part of the basement without my permission. Madison's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. Within 30 minutes, my parents arrived, both still in their evening wear, having left some charity gala early. This is ridiculous, my father exploded after I explained everything again. Edward would never, he couldn't have. Oh, but he did, a new voice joined the conversation. We turned to see Mr. Harrison, Grandpa's attorney, standing in the doorway. Sorry I'm late, Sophie. I've been monitoring the house since the sale. Figured you might need backup tonight. He opened his briefcase and began laying out documents. Everything is perfectly legal. The vault and its contents belong exclusively to Sophie. Any attempt to access it without her permission would be considered criminal trespassing. But we're family, my mother pleaded, her voice suddenly soft. Surely we can work something out. Split it fairly. I thought about all the unfair splits over the years. The college fund that went entirely to Madison. The family vacations I wasn't invited to. The house they sold for $2. Actually, I said, standing up straighter, I already have plans for this fortune. The next few months were a whirlwind. With Mr. Harrison's help, I established a foundation in Grandpa Edward's name, dedicated to preserving historical artifacts and providing scholarships to students studying archaeology and history. The gold was carefully sold off, with a portion invested in renovating the old factory district downtown into affordable housing, something Grandpa had always talked about doing. Madison and James had to abandon their renovation plans. They couldn't risk damaging my vault, and the thought of living above $47 million they couldn't touch drove them crazy. They sold the house back to me, for market value this time. I moved back into my childhood home, restored Grandpa's workshop, and turned the vault into a small private museum. The most valuable pieces weren't the gold bars or rare coins. They were Grandpa's notebooks, filled with stories about each artifact he collected. My parents and Madison tried everything to get a piece of the fortune. First came the threats of legal action, which Mr. Harrison quickly shut down. Then came the tearful apologies and claims of family loyalty, which I met with polite but firm refusal. Finally, Madison showed up at my door one rainy evening, mascara running down her face. Her husband's business was failing, and they were about to lose everything. "Please," she begged. "I know I don't deserve it, but I need help." I thought about what Grandpa would do. "I won't give you money," I said finally, "but I'm offering you a job at the foundation. Real work with a fair salary, your choice." She stared at me for a long moment before nodding slowly. These days, the house at 147 Maple Grove is filled with life again. The workshop hosts weekly classes where I teach local kids about history and antiques. Madison, surprisingly, has become quite good at her job at the foundation. Though our relationship remains professional rather than sisterly, my parents still struggle to accept that their disappointing daughter now runs a multi-million-dollar foundation. They send Christmas cards with awkward apologies written inside, which I file away in a drawer. Sometimes late at night, I sit in Grandpa's workshop and read through his notebooks. "Value isn't always visible to the naked eye," he wrote in one. "True worth is found in patience, kindness, and the wisdom to wait for the right moment." The house still has its secrets, but now they're mine to keep. Every creak in the floorboards, every hidden compartment, every shadowy corner holds memories of the man who saw value in me when no one else did. And that, more than all the gold in the world, is the real treasure he left me.